Patch 11.16 is upon us, so you already know we've got you guys covered with a complete update on the meta. With the help of our challenger players and researching the most up-to-date stats, we've pieced together our tier list so you guys can get a great read on how things are shaping out. Our very first rating of Uxin is ready to go. While it's about time after many months of dominating the support meta, Lulu will finally be nerfed. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description for a special discount. So without any further ado, let's jump right in. As always, we'll start off by breaking down the item changes and talk about which champions will be affected the most. Dark Seal will be nerfed this patch as the AP per stack is being lowered from 5 down to 4, while the stacks lost on death are going up from 4 to 5. Seal has been such an amazing pickup throughout the entirety of Season 11 due to how cost efficient it is, so this nerf is definitely warranted. Even without any stacks, Dark Seal is 123% efficient, and it spikes to 434 at 10 stacks pre-nerf. We still think the item will be a valuable purchase on many champions, as the efficiency of Dark Seal will remain very high despite the change. Supports will see a pretty massive buff to Redemption in 11.16, as the heal is going from 180 scaling to 360 up to 200 scaling to 400. Cooldown is being sliced a considerable amount, dropping from 120 seconds down to 90 seconds. For someone like Soraka, who already sees great success with Redemption, this is a solid indirect buff. Koreans love Redemption's second item on Bard right now, so this makes him even stronger. It's pretty interesting because stat-wise, Redemption wins more than any second purchase on Thresh, even before this buff, so we definitely think it comes back into meta for 11.16. We wouldn't be surprised if almost every support starts building Redemption as a core second purchase. Without a doubt, the most oppressive top laner in Tahm Kench is being hit with a nerf. Passive damage drops from 12 scaling to 60 down to 8 scaling to 60. Q healing is being reduced from 15 scaling to 35 down to 10 scaling to 30. Early game takes the biggest hit here, which is definitely where Tahm is at his best. Decent nerfs, but taking into consideration how broken Tahm is right now for solo queue, he won't be falling far on the tier list. The Kench will remain unbenched as he slots into an S tier positioning this patch. Some buffs targeted towards shifting Maokai out of the support role and back up to top lane are headed to live. Passive heal will be increased from 5 scaling to 13% up to 7 scaling to 15%. E base damage is lowered by 5 at all ranks, and E AP ratio drops from 0.8% down to 0.7% per 100 AP. Since solo lane Maokai maxes E out last and doesn't itemize AP, this nerf affects him very minimally. Heal going up is huge for early trading and sustain throughout the game. Against heavy AP comps, this buff combined with building Spirit Visage will be really nice. We'll give Maokai the bump from B into A tier as a result of this buff. Fiora is the second top laner nerfed for 11.16, as her E cooldown will be increased from 11 scaling to 5 seconds up to 11 scaling to 7 seconds. A slight nerf to Fiora's scaling power and mid-game spike. Our analysts don't expect the change to be enough to force Fiora down the tier list, so she'll remain a strong S tier option. Alright, for the top lane tier list, it's pretty consistent to where we had it in 11.15. Sett and Camille are your two OP picks of the patch. Riot went lighter with top lane changes here, so Tahm and Maokai will be the only picks shifting significantly. If you're into playing those underrated champs, Cassio and Lilia are both great options right now. Cass buffs last patch are killer, and she can do an amazing job against a lot of meta top laners, especially Tahm Kench. We'll go more into detail on Lilia in our Korean builds video as to why she's been popping up as of recent. Our top 3 low elo recommendations are Mundo, Yorick, and Garen, while the best bans include Sett, Camille, and Tahm Kench. A highly warranted nerf to Lee Sin will be issued this patch, with his W Omnivamp being reduced from 10 scaling to 30% down to 5 scaling to 25%. Lee holds the highest pick rate for any jungler on 11.15, and we don't see that changing much after this nerf. It's just the Omnivamp that's nerfed, not the shield, so Lee's sustain will still be very strong. A tier is the lowest we can see him dropping, but for now, he'll continue to hold down a spot in S tier. The long-awaited nerf Riot's been cooking up for Xin Zhao is a 3 base AD nerf. That's it. Don't get us wrong. 3 base AD is a solid nerf as it affects both your clear and dueling power, but with how godlike Xin has been as of recent, we'll only be shifting him from OP down to S. A really amazing set of buffs will go the way of Jarvan this patch, as his passive current health damage is increased from 8 up to 10%. Furthermore, Jarvan's R bonus AD ratio is going from 150 to 180%. This puts a nice charge into Jarvan's all-in power and makes him a lock as a valuable pickup for 11.16. For the first time in Season 11, we see Jarvan solidifying himself a spot in the meta as a strong A-tier jungle pick. So many early game spam ganking junglers are being targeted this patch, and that continues with Nunu next in line. Base move speed is going from 340 up to 345. EAP ratio skyrockets from 54 to 90%. We're smelling an AP Bruiser Nunu build in the works for 11.16, as something like a Rocket Belt Rush into tank will be much more viable now. The base move speed buff is quite massive too, especially for a jungler, as the faster you can move around the map, the more impactful you can be. Watch out for Nunu this patch, as he'll take back a spot in our S tier as one of the top solo queue junglers. Shaco Mains had a really nice run for a couple months there, and then got blasted with some bugs that have dropped his power level drastically. Riot will be addressing those issues in 11.16 with a couple bug fix changes and reverting Q showing in Fog of War. We expect Shaco to land back in a good A tier position, but we'll be sure to keep track of how impactful these changes turn out to be as the patch progresses. The 6th jungle change will be a nerf to Diana, as her passive damage to monsters is being lowered from 300 down to 250%. This nerf will stunt Diana's early clear and see her lose priority over many other junglers for 11.16. Diana will be dropping down to B tier as an average jungle pickup. So the jungle tier list sees some reconstruction this patch, as there are many champions moving up and down. Viego takes over Xin Zhao's spot in OP tier, while Kha'Zix moves up to join him alongside Nocturne. As both Lee and Xin Zhao are nerfed this patch, we definitely see Viego taking over as a very high priority pick. If you like an aggressive early ganking style, then Jarvan and Nunu are so much stronger now and provide you with exactly that. Trundle is one of the more underrated solo queue junglers at the moment, who's slowly made his way up the tier list due to many positive changes over the past months. To climb low elo the fastest, we would recommend spamming Shyvana, Rammus, or Nunu. Best bans for 11.16 include Viego, Xin Zhao, and Lee Sin. Vladimir's scaling becomes even stronger this patch with a couple buffs to his passive. Each point of AP will now grant 1.6 health instead of 1.4. You'll also gain an additional 1 AP for every 30 bonus health instead of 40. The buffs really aren't that big, as you'll gain about 5 extra AP on your 3-item spike, along with around 80 extra health. A buff nonetheless, but not something that will have an impact on Vladimir's tier list position. Vlad remains a strong S tier pick for this patch. So with Vlad being the only mid lane change penciled in this patch, it means no major alterations to the meta. In the OP tier will be Zed, Katarina, and Graves makes the jump for 11.16. Graves mid has been a pick on our radar the past few patches, and it's starting to get a lot more attention now. The perma wave clear and strong skirmish are exactly what you want in a good solo queue mid laner, and Graves has it all. If you want to learn more about the pick, we have a commentary on our second channel from one of our challenger mid laners showing you how to play Graves mid. Our very first rating of Ukshin is in a strong A tier position. As 11.15 progressed and more players have figured out how to play him optimally, he's seeing way more success. The roam and catch potential from W and E is just super nuts, which is perfect for a solo queue mid. Our top 3 low elo mid laners are Kayle, Malzahar, and Annie. A couple good bans for this patch include Katarina, Zed, and Kassadin. Riot's looking to tone down Ziggs a little this patch, as his E damage per mine will be lowered from 40 scaling to 180 down to 30 scaling to 190. Slow on E drops as well, going from 30 scaling to 50% down to 10 scaling 50%. In compensation, the base mana nerf from 11.14 is being reverted. So what we're looking at is 10 less damage and 20% less slow on E early in the game. A considerable hit, but similar to the Xin Zhao nerf from earlier, we can't see it affecting Ziggs all too much due to how strong of a state he's in. Our analysts continue to rate Ziggs as an OP bot lane pick for 11.16, but at the very most may need an adjustment down to S if the E nerf turns out more impactful than anticipated. Sivir is one of the few marksmen who hasn't seen the spotlight in Season 11, so Riot is looking to give her a buff. WAD ratio is being increased from 30 scaling to 70% up to 30 scaling to 90%. Mid to late game team fight buff for Sivir that comes online full throttle once she reaches level 13. The buff won't be enough to push Sivir above many of the S tier carries, but will help her lock down a good A tier spot on the tier list. Jhin is one of the biggest winners for 11.16, as he'll see 2 direct buffs. W damage climbs from 50 scaling to 190 up to 60 scaling to 200. R minimum damage AD ratio is increased from 20 up to 25%. The fact Jhin is seeing buffs before Lucian is rather confusing, but nonetheless, Jhin mains will be really happy with this one. Jhin is now a highly valuable S tier pickup for 11.16. Due to the lack of any major changes, we won't see a drastic shift in the bot lane meta. Ashe, Ziggs, and Kog will continue to stomp on the rest of the competition. Uxin is proving to be much better suited as a mid laner than an AD carry. Move speed from W and gap close from E works so well in mid lane and doesn't translate as well for bot. Bot lane Uxin isn't terrible, but only slots into a B tier position for 11.16. Ziggs, Misfortune, and Ashe are the top 3 low elo picks of the patch, while Vayne, Ashe, and Ziggs are good bans to consider. We've been waiting for this one for multiple patches now, and it's here at last. Lulu W cooldown is being increased by 1 second at all ranks, while ultimate cooldown goes from 110 scaling to 80 seconds to 120 scaling to 80 seconds. Not as big a nerf as we would have liked to see, but we'll take what we can get. W can be spammed off cooldown in teamfights, so a 1 second increase can be pretty impactful in certain situations. 10 seconds off ultimate will limit your window of aggression early on. Lulu's tier list placement will be affected as she drops from OP down into S, but we don't see her leaving the meta just yet. And the last set of changes we have for you guys is by far the heaviest amount for one single champion. Riot is issuing Sona a mini rework as her passive will have a new look. The new passive will be called Accelerando. Sona's basic abilities will grant her 0.5 non-ultimate ability haste per hit. This scales up to 60 non-ultimate haste. Once she reaches 60, instead of gaining additional Accelerando attacks, Sona reduces her ultimate's current cooldown by 1.5 seconds. What a massive scaling buff for Sona here. Q mana cost is being lowered from 75 scaling to 95 down to 50 scaling to 70. The mana refund, however, is being removed. W mana cost will also have its mana refund removed, but the cost of the spell is lowered from 105 scaling to 125 down to 80 scaling to 100. Same thing in regards to E. Mana cost down, but mana refund removed. Our basic ability cooldown reduction is being removed, while you can now damage minions and monsters with the spell. We really like where Riot is going with the passive changes, and even though the mana refund on abilities are being removed, building Archangels is completely viable and can be a pickup if mana issues persist. Even just grabbing a tier and sitting on it will likely be a great option. With an overhaul like this, it's difficult to accurately predict where Sona will land. However, we see fit as an A or S tier pick. We'll place her in S and continue to monitor as the patch progresses. So, to break down the support tier list, we have Blitz as the lone OP pick who reigns supreme for 11.16. Buffs from last patch have given him a serious jolt and have left everyone else trailing behind. Trundle is a new one that we will be featuring in our Korean builds video. A great counter pick into other melee supports, and he finds himself a spot in our A tier. Highly valuable low elo picks we would recommend abusing include Brand, Blitz, and Zyra. The top bans for 11.16 are Leona, Blitzcrank, and Lulu. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week. With over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses, no one can compare. We've also sent challenger players into ELO hell 629 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $4.99 a month if you're serious about improving. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. So there you have it, guys. That's what the meta will be looking like as we head into 11.16. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you back soon.